because of the way Americans, of course, being very Germanic, because basically this country is always been German Irish, and the Irish and the Germans are very good at keeping records, and the Irish are much better at being political. So the Irish basically came here. They came here. They were sent here by their families to run the colonies. Seamus, I don't care what she looks like. You are going to marry the daughter of the mayor of Hoboken. And then we are going to rule Hoboken, New Jersey. That will be our city. And then we can, Dad? Okay, all right. And so he does. So he goes to Hoboken, and he woos the daughter of the mayor of Hoboken and marries her. And they did that up and down the colonies because the Irish, remember, the British did not trade with the colonies. The Irish traded with the colonies because the British did not see any advantage to it, and the Irish did. And so these wealthy Irish merchants, built ships, came to the colonies, and the Irish brought with them salted beef, salted this, all the kinds of, and supplied, because remember, these early colonies, these people starved every winter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They had no idea how to grow food.
Right.
Not a clue. And so basically, and then of course then the Irish started to see there was this power gap and also this supply gap, and they just took advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they just happened to be Irish. And of course, that made it easy for them was they spoke English, because these were touted as British Crown colonies, because they did belong to the Crown, but the Crown really didn't care about it. The Crown, they weren't making enough money, and so the Crown ignored them. But most of the English names in the colonies were Irish names, and they weren't even Irish names. They were Anglo-Saxon names, Norman names, that we now think are English names. And they are now, but back then they were names that came from Saxony, Normandy.
So where did we move after Germany? The family, England, Normandy, Germany.
And then to the Alsace.
Where's that? I've never heard of an Alsace.
The two provinces of Alsace and Lorraine that are at the border of the German-French border. And sometimes those areas have been occupied by the Germans and sometimes by the French. So you have these areas that it depends on who won the last weekend's little war. And so they're interesting places because a lot of people there are going to be they're going to be able to speak both language. The other thing too is they're right on the border, so on both sides of the border they're going to be pretty much cooperative with each other because they're trading across the border constantly. It's like us and the Canadians. I mean, you're not going to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the biggest problem at our entry and exit points at the border, the U.S.-Canadian border, is truck traffic, because of the interconnectedness of industries on one side of the border to the other. So, I mean, if you're making corn widgets, you start making the corn widget in Canada, you go through process 1, 2, you put it on a truck, it goes to the U.S. for processes 3, 4, and 5, goes back to Canada, and by the time the whole thing is done, it's crossed the border several times. But that's the way. But that's how those businesses evolve, and that's why the whole concept of borders is so ludicrous. I mean, we have borders because we are dominated by fear. And 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 of course, I'm always appalled at the idea that the Canadian dollar is worth less than the American dollar, despite the fact that Canadians have a better standard of living than Americans do. But that is not so much economics as it is politics.
Hmm.
But then, you know, that's just how it is.